If you're trying to teach leadership by explaining it, you might be doing it wrong. Hey, ScouterStan, let's talk about using stories as a way to communicate to youth. Very important that we think about how they think, how their thought process works. We, as adult leaders, we can sit through lectures like this and really think about all of the different facets and different things that are going on within the lecture. The scout does not, the youth and scouts, even the younger ones, if you tell them a story, it's so much easier to get that information deep, that leadership, and showing them what that leadership does. That's a part of that story. And having that really helps the scout see it in their own mind when you tell the story of leadership. Scouts often don't remember different lectures and those things that we tell them without relating it to a moment, to a story. That's the important thing. When you're communicating to youth, it's important that the story has those things in it that can actually help the scouts really put the things together so that they understand the leadership. A story can actually create an emotional bond. That's the thing that comes through in the story. And that really helps mold and help form the actual character that we're looking for. That's the key. If you can put that in a story, they will learn it faster than any other way of communications. Now, what makes a good mentoring story? There are 3 specific parts to every story that's out there. A lot of times it's just beginning, middle, and end, but those have actual purposes. At the beginning, you want to make sure that the situation, all of the different characters that are in the story, and their behaviors and their types of things that they've done, that's all there. The situation that needs to be clear and relatable. So that's at the very beginning of it. Any of the analogical stories that we tell as mentors. In the middle, of course, you have the struggle. Whatever the challenge is that's ahead. It could be as simple as, we got to get the water to the fire. Okay, you have the situation, and it's just a matter of that's the challenge. That's part of it. The hero's journey is a big thing. That situation needs to be a big part of that, and relatable. That's the part that's very important, that as a mentor you make sure the scout can relate to this person that's handling this situation. Then at the end of that story, you need to make sure there's a lesson that is relatable, a conclusion, some way of being able to resolve the issue favorably, honorably, within the Scout Oath and Scout Law. That's the key. If you're teaching and you're trying to mentor scouts and you've got that skill, that's important. Make sure that the lesson is clear. Those are the real big parts of any time that you're using a story or an analogy to really make a point. Now, it's incredibly important that this be used as often as possible with youth. If a youth was having a problem, say for instance within a patrol, you tell the story. It says, well, there's been patrols that have just like yours. They've got new scouts, they got older scouts, they have scouts that are not in the same school, and so on. You can easily say that's the situation in the unit. None of them wanted to be patrol leader, so everyone was a patrol leader. Chaos, absolute chaos, right? Everybody trying to be the boss. The patrol leader is an essential position. No one would step up, so therefore their campsite was disarray. They didn't have a menu. Nobody cleaned their dishes. It was chaos everywhere, and it wasn't organized in any way. So it was too many chiefs and no Indians. That's what they say. Really a problem. The lesson that they learned is that in order to succeed, they had to have a leader. Now it can change. It can rotate between everybody in the group, but it's important to have a leader to say, put your tents this way. We're going to have lunch at lunchtime. Okay? That's the kind of thing that they do. And they all succeeded. That's the lesson. That's the analogy. Okay? That's the story. So try to use those as often as you can when you're mentoring. Now, when to use storytelling for maximum effect. This is critical to make sure that you're not using up all of your time. That's the important part with youth. It has to hit quickly, okay? And there's lots of stories online. Okay, so definitely find one that'll work for your unit. But to maximize that, you have to have the right moment. And a good one is around the campfire. Now, a lot of times campfires, they start off slow, because just like the campfire itself, they peak and then they go back down. Okay, so you have to keep that in mind. You have to have that curve in there. So the best time for the story is at either end, at the ends of those. That's when the Scoutmaster can do a Scoutmaster's minute, moment, whatever you want to call it, and tell those stories about leadership, about challenges that happen. And that beginning, middle, end is easy to put in there, and they can kind of bring that into their mind and think about the meaning. That's the thing. So many times people hear the words, but they don't get the meaning. That's the key. That's the key to it. You got to be able to be heard. You have to do the communication part, and the story is that communication. If you could do that, like at a campfire, perfect. Now, another one that a scout leader did a meeting, a story, had the scouts come around and they told them a story. It's after a failure, okay, something happened, okay, and they wanted to know about the thing that happened. Something in the news, something out in the world. It's important that the information be as factual as you can. But using that analogy, using those stories can help young people relate and understand what's going on. So that's, if something is like a going on as far as that, not necessarily a story, but talk about those things and talk about it in a positive manner if you can. Some things you can't, but if you can, put a positive light on it and start talking about the things that relate back to the Scout Oath and Scout Law. Great moment. Now, another great one is, of course, the Scoutmaster's Minute. Typically, it's a 60-second story or analogy or something interesting that captures the attention of the young scouts. This does not always need to be the Scoutmaster. They can have guests come on and give these things. That is really good. And there are thousands of these stories out on the internet. Definitely check some of the links. There's links, right? Check them in the description where it says more. Just click on it. You'll see a whole bunch of links in there. There's tons of information out there. Definitely go and find something. There's even a video right here on the Scoutmaster's Minute. So definitely do that. It doesn't have to be the Scoutmaster. It could be assistant Scoutmaster. It could be committee people. It could be anything. So it could be parents, and it can be read. That's something that you can kind of mix it up, and that's important too. Yeah, one of the things is that if it's during the chaos, okay, of a challenge, of some kind of issue, okay, that's not the best place to break out the story time and have everybody sit down. You got to handle that issue. Safety is critical, so you don't break out the stories during that. Use some common sense, and a lot of adults, we all have our moments, but most of the time we can kind of figure out when it's appropriate. But during chaotic moments, during problems, during issues, not the best time. Try to use it wisely for group learning, group lessons. That's the thing. Individual, probably not, but definitely use a little common sense on that. Hey, before we go any further, I want to make sure that you know that you're personally invited to come and attend the Campfire Chat. We have a brand new one every first Sunday starting at 9 p.m. And you're welcome to join the chat room and ask questions and really get involved. Also want to thank all of the Patreon supporters of this channel. We also have a membership right here on this channel. So definitely hit the join button to get more information about joining us in supporting the ScouterStan channel. And in that, let's take a look at all of our supporters. Mentoring versus lecturing. This is a lecture format. This video. We're lecturing, okay? Now the thing is, with a lecture, I don't see you. I see a camera, okay? With your mentoring, you see the scout. That's the difference. You see the scouts. You see the expression on their face. Are they paying attention to you? Are they looking in your eyes? With a lecture, it can be like this. And that has really been the format of this channel. What I want you to think about is don't do this, okay? You need to make sure that when you're mentoring, you're telling the story. You're getting that relationship there, the feedback that you need, the visual cues, and being able to see all that. That's a critical part to good mentoring. To stand there monotone like, I'm not good at that, but monotone like to just kind of lecture away about something doesn't really relate to a lot of young people. They don't get it. That doesn't stick. They might hear it, but doesn't stick. And that's why the storytelling, the analogy, there was a scout just like you. That brings in their focus. Okay? That's the key. That's the key. And he had this issue. Okay? Just like you. Okay? Then you related to it. And he succeeded. He thrived. That's the key. If you can do that one-on-one with a scout, they will get more out of your mentoring. You'll actually be a better mentor by putting it in that beginning, middle, end. That's the important part. It's key to remember that if you're talking more than the scout can actually think at that moment, you're lecturing. Don't do that. Stop. Think about putting in an analogy that they can comprehend, that they can get, that they understand. Because you have them right in front of you. Don't just blank out and go into lecture mode, okay? That's not what a mentor should do. They should relate the issue and be able to make sure that they think about that issue in a good light. You want to make it a good thing. So that's the key. Now there's a powerful thing here. You can have the scouts actually tell their own story. This is great, especially for den chiefs, especially for guides to help scouts to tell about a story or a thing that they were challenged with and how they overcame that challenge and succeeded. That is powerful. If you have youth telling stories or giving those analogies, those truths, they get that more than anything. They can't relate, with the old people, the old adults. They want to relate with their own peers. So if you can get them to tell the story, it is fantastic. So never give up that moment. Challenge them. Say, hey, I need you to tell a story about being friendly, courteous, and kind. Have them do that. Have them tell a story. Having a youth actually doing that, so much better. So much better. That's a great thing. And it's absorbed instantaneously by the youth. This is very powerful. And especially from a youth to the youth. Now, on a side note, I want to make sure that your unit survives. So you should have a succession plan. There should be somebody that's working with you, so if you're not in the picture anymore, that the unit can go on. I've been to a lot of troops, a lot of packs, a lot of crew that had leadership changes that caused the unit to fail completely. So it's very important that everyone in scouting has a backup, has somebody there able to take the reins and be able to make the troop, make the pack, make the crew still go. That's a very critical thing. Now I have a video talks about succession plans. What happens if your troop committee chair gets transferred? Okay, that's been known to happen. Okay, so it's important that you have a plan, that there's a backup, that there's somebody there that can do that. Same thing with treasurer, same thing with advancement. They should be all teams, okay, of people that are stepping up, mostly parents, stepping up and helping out. That's the critical thing. You got to have that, because if you don't, you're going to run into that wall and the unit will not survive. So definitely check out that video. Common mistakes to avoid. One of the big ones is going on too long. Okay, now if you're in a lecture, that's all a part of the lecture, right? But if it's a story, beginning, middle, end, okay? Make sure that that has a flow, okay? And that it's not disjointed. This is not the great novel that starts at the end and has a middle somewhere and a beginning somewhere. No, beginning, middle, end. It's very straightforward. And it needs to be short, okay? That's the key. Keep running it through whatever you have to make it shorter and shorter and shorter. To the point. That's really the key. Whenever possible, try to avoid making yourself the hero, okay? The savior of the day, okay? That comes off wrong with a lot of people. A lot of people get very upset about that kind of thing. So try to do stories that are not directly related to people within your orbit, okay? To try to use ambiguous kind of characters, and yeah, it's relatable to what is going on, but it's different names, different places. You got to mix that up, okay? You don't want to make it the story into a lecture, okay? That's not the point. So definitely try to avoid making yourself the hero. That's not the way it should be done. It should be done where they put themselves in their mind as the hero. That's the key. That's the thing about young people. They want to succeed. They want to have fun. They want to have things happen. That's the wonderful thing about putting those stories out. Don't make yourself the focus. Now, inside of a story, don't push the lesson so hard. If they have to sit and think about the story, that's the key. They'll relate more to that. Being able to think, well, the person that did that succeeded. It may not be the result that they thought, but they did succeed. So that's the story. That's the beautiful thing about it. Stories that are preachy, okay? That's not a lecture, okay? This is a lecture, okay? But the story should be given in a way that it's there, and the person receiving that story will receive it appropriately, digest it appropriately in the mind, and be able to use the lesson that's learned. That's the beautiful thing. And at all costs, avoid using stories at the wrong time. There's a time and a place for that, and we've discussed it. So definitely think about that. If you find yourself going into that analogy, if you find yourself going into a long, drawn-out story, just stop. Just stop, okay? If they were interested, they'll ask, okay? That's the thing. If they probably were not interested, they were more focused on something else. So definitely think about that as a mentor. So here's my challenge, if you're willing to take it. The next time you think you're going to be talking about leadership or just talking to a youth, maybe step back and use a story, an analogy that they can kind of relate to. That's the key. You're going to communicate better that way. You're going to mentor better instead of lecture, okay? That's the key. Think about it in those terms. Now, the thing about this channel is we are a lecture channel, okay? And we record these things and there's nobody else in the room. It's one of those things. A mentor doesn't have that luxury, okay? They have scouts around them that they need to mentor and help them achieve by coming up with a solution on their own. That's the key. By using the beauty of storytelling or relating things in a way that they can comprehend makes it so much more meaningful. Now, if you have a moment, I would love to hear a short story, okay? Less than 2 paragraphs, okay? No cheating. But if you'd put that in the comments, I'd love to hear your stories. Those are great, okay? Please keep in mind. I like stories about scout law, so that and how those things can be good and really help the youth. We have youth here on this channel. There are youth actually watching these videos. I do not restrict them. I don't make it for them, but I don't restrict the video for adults only. You know, there's nothing here that they can't see. It's not secret. It's a very family-friendly channel. So definitely, if you have a story, please put it in the comments. It is 2 Deep Leadership there, so, well, it's more than 2. It's thousands, okay, that see them. So definitely keep within the Scout Oath and Scout Law, okay? If they're not, they will get popped, okay? So don't go the wrong direction, okay? Make sure you go the scouting way, okay? But I'd love to hear your comments and in the comments. Definitely do that. Now, the scout leaders, we do a lot. You do a lot. And it's important that we're respectful and understanding of all of that. So definitely put it in the comments. I want to read them. If you have questions, definitely put them out there. There's a lot of videos on storytelling. There's a ton of them. So definitely do some research online. There are tons of stories out there that are pretty common that scouts hear, and traditional stories. There are booklets sold at the scout shop that talk about stories and Scoutmaster's Minute and so on. I mean, they're awesome. Okay, so definitely check them out. Don't disregard them. Read them. They're kind of inspiring. So, and they should be. And that's really where the stories stick as far as being remembered. It's very important. And there's a lot of important things going on in scouting. So definitely keep up the good hard work. I want to make sure that you know that there's a video for Scoutmasters and senior patrol leaders. And it's the big age-old thing. Who's the boss? You know, they don't know. So definitely check out the video. And I will see you on the trail.